G'day friends, welcome to Beneath the Beats. Jon Theodore's Mars Volta setup wasn't a massive kit, but the way he moved around it created one of the most explosive drum sounds of the 2000s. Songs like Eriatarka showcase huge dynamic shifts, driven what seemed to be like steel drums, bright cymbals, and weird metal stack cymbals. Today we're taking a dive into Jon's typical setup in the Mars Volta era. Now just quickly, before we get stuck into Jon's setup, I wanted to highlight a couple of his quirks. Now, on De-Loused in the Comatorium, Jon's kick work rarely felt locked to a rigid grid, while the cymbal work almost behaved like a melodic instrument layered over the top. And you'll see this here in this live video of Eriatarka. That's what I'm talking about. There's that weird stack cymbal. We're going to talk about that later. I remember hearing that at the time and completely freaking out. Like, what the f*** is this guy doing? All right, friends, it's time to break down Jon's Mars Volta era setup. And as I love doing, I've recreated this digitally based off old articles, vision, photographs. Shout out to Modern Drummer again for coming to the table with a very in-depth article about setups from that typical era. And, you know, a lot of information on specs, which is nice. However, this was only one example of the kits he used. But I have recreated this kit in the stainless steel version because I just thought it was rad and it just looks cool. All right, so we're going to get stuck in and start with the kick drum. So Jon was using a 24x14 kick there. Now, stepping up to the rack tom, he is using a 14x10 rack. So definitely not a small rack tom and would be quite loud, particularly with the steel shells. But I would imagine Jon was looking for projection in this Mars Volta lineup. Now, stepping down to the floor toms, we have a 16x16 and an 18x16. So pretty standard floor tom setup. Yeah, snare drum, 6.5x14 or 14x6.5, Ludwig Supraphonic. So he's going to get a lot of crack from that snare. That's what Supraphonics are great for. They have a really focused crack. And you'll hear that in Mars Volta performances. Just an all-round good drum. Hence why they are the most recorded snare in the world. So that rounds out the drum sizing of the shells. Now, we'll step up to the drum heads. You'll see here he is using remote-controlled sound. Now, remote-controlled sound heads have a more focused attack, but also extra durability. Now, Jon Theodore isn't a light hitter. He goes pretty hard. So these are a pretty good choice in drum head for his setup and in Mars Volta. Even on the kick drum, he's got the controlled sound there. So yeah, this screams a bit of Bonham to me. But yeah, great setup. Even though it was tight, he used every drum to its fullest capability with Mars Volta. Stepping up to the cymbals. Now, this is where it got interesting with what we were talking about before. Now, with his cymbal use, very dynamic, which turned into basically another melodic instrument. But he didn't need a lot of cymbals. He kept it quite tight, as you'll see here. Now, we'll start with the hi-hat, and I found this interesting. 13-inch, and he was using a quick beat as a top and a new beat top for the bottom. Now, I assume with the pairing of these hi-hats, he was looking for cut, a bit more brightness and cut. So he's certainly going to get that from those two. And 13-inch, bit of a smaller diameter there. Stepping up to the first crash, which is a 19A medium thin crash. I love A medium thins. These cymbals are amazing. I own a 20 myself. We go down to the ride cymbal, which is a 21A suite. All right, friends, the cymbal we're all been waiting for. What the is this cymbal right here? I mean, it's not a branded stack cymbal. It's not something you can buy on the market. What it is it's basically a sandwich of busted metal. And Jon specified that in an article I read. Couldn't specify exactly what he used, but basically a cymbal sandwich we are dealing with here. It cuts through, sounds rad, and here's some evidence of it live. What is it? What are you guys making your stacks out of? I'm keen to know. I might start looking around for some busted scrap metal, see what I can do. Now, finishing with the last cymbal here, we have a 19A medium thin crash on this side too. So not much between dynamic ranging between the actual crash cymbals. That could be due to a mix thing, sits in the mix better, and obviously lets the effects cymbals shine and the hi-hats, which he's very heavy on in that era. In terms of kick pedal, no specification on that. I couldn't find information, but I assume hardware is either DW or Ludwig of that era. Pretty sick setup. Love the steel drums. I've never played a steel drum setup, but if any of you guys have, feel free to share your experience in the comments. Rightio, friends, that rounds out our Mars Volta era of Mr. Theodore's drum setup. But what happens when he eventually joins Queens of the Stone Age? To find out how far he goes, you might have to stick around for the next episode. Until next time, guys, take care of yourselves and rock on. Cheers.